Hello and welcome to the Xenogenesis podcast. In this episode, episode 59, we're covering chapters 3 and 4 from part 2 Exile of book 3 Imago of the Xenogenesis trilogy by Octavia E. Butler. My name is Richard Acton, and I'm joined, as always, in this rainforest by my co-host,
Michael Glinka. Hi, everyone. It's getting more and more interesting. Well, I keep saying that, but it's... I find it funny on how... we'll get to it in a second, but I honestly find funny how Jodahs' body keeps adjusting, adapting to the environment, and great big Lizardman has emerged, and it's just hilarious that all the stories of Chupacabras will be spread by humans. Like the Oankali probably brought something in or something.
Yeah, it's a lot of plasticity, shall we say?
Honestly,
Jodahs, yeah, and an interesting bit of a twist in chapter 4 as well.
Yeah, a big twist. I think that I didn't expect. Honestly, I didn't expect that coming. But yeah,
it surprised me on the first read through too. I wasn't really anticipating that. No, good misdirect.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, maybe let's get to the chapter 3 prediction, or...
Let's jump
so, well, I mean, we already determined that the humans that were left would show more hatred towards the Oankali and their human families. But I was expecting more Joao to be repulsed by Jodahs, and obviously he would choose Ayer, but obviously because of her being potential female... And obviously the man would be more interested in that, and I feel like I spell some jealousy between Jodahs and Ayer over the man, but I wasn't certain if anything would build up from that.
Yeah, so the Uloi at this stage do seem to be quite possessive.
Yes, that's a correct word. Possessive,
as we've said before, or as what was it?
I think
Nikanj said it, right?
Yes, Nikanj said it. That that the possessive, young possessive Uloi.
It was prickly and possessive, which I thought was it's a good combination of words.
But yeah,
yes, we don't really get jealousy per se between the two.
No, it doesn't really happen between them. It's just it's obvious that Joao chooses Ayer. But it's more of a obvious that the fact that the physical contact is more important.
Yeah, it does seem to warm up to Jodahs once its shape changes a little bit.
Yeah. So I guess let's get to it, because that's basically the what the chapter starts with. So as we started in chapter 3, starts with Joao, basically, Octavia Butler was saying, as predicted, Joao chooses Ayer. It seems that the moment he realized that Ayer didn't mind physical touch, and funny for me, the people around it neither, he would grope her every night. I'm like, okay, cool. Great fun family nights. There's some random man whose leg is growing, and just basically molesting our daughter, and we're like, yeah, chill, cool, that's fine, it's all good.
I mean, Ayer's fine with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, consent is takes you wherever you want, but I mean, consent, does everybody consent to that? But hey,
yeah. So the Oankali in general seem to have a very open sexual culture, shall we say?
Yeah, let's put it that way. But he also accepted Jodahs, or rather endured it, right? During the day, he would pretend that Jodahs doesn't exist, but at night, he would allow Jodahs to connect with him. And, it took 21 days for Joao legs to grow, and in the meantime, Jodahs changed, as you said, it looks to further please Joao. It would grow breasts, develop more female appearance. It didn't control it. Jodahs' body responded basically to Joao's body. It took additional, it would just basically respond to stimuli and whatever else the body was saying it's more attracted to. And it took additional few days for Joao to regain his strength, but Jodahs had to make sure that everything was okay. The leg looked soft and tender, so it made sandals for him to ensure no damage would take place to the foot.
Yeah, it seems like the sort of much more like shape-shifting almost abilities that Jodahs has lets it be a bit more appealing visually to the humans, right? Because the way that the Uloi were trying to do this before always ended up being kind of like pheromones and mind manipulation-y stuff, right? Whereas this is a bit more visual, right? Nakanj couldn't really pull it off.
More. Well, I mean, vision is probably one of the most important sense that we, first of all, I get attracted, the attraction uses, right? So I'm not surprised that, humans initially were like a bit repulsed by the whole idea of Oankali. But now you have something that can literally mold itself into anything you wish.
Vision's kind of our like dominant sensory paradigm, right? Our ability to smell and all the rest of it is not quite as significant a contributor to inputs for by comparison with, say, dogs and smell or many other organisms. Just like the amount of nerve endings that come into our brain from eyes is more than most other things.
Absolutely.
Maybe tactile stuff as well to some degree, but mostly.
It's interesting that the fact that, like, you may be like, oh, this is what attracts me now, and then like you start feeling like, oh, maybe something else is like, and then like, now I'm into big breast women. Now I'm into like, more of the opposite way. It's just like, yep, no worry, chap, I've got it covered.
Oh dear.
But yeah, after 24 days, Jodahs said that it's time for the man to go. It surprised Joao because the man became more dependable on Jodahs than he would like to admit. And as I said before, the man would ignore Jodahs during the day, but at night was a different thing. He was finding it hard to manufacture the hatred towards Jodahs. Yeah,
as usual, we have some interesting way of manifesting that kind of internal contradiction with still very much intellectually not wanting to be engaged with the Oankali and particularly the Uloi, but they usually, they worm away in.
Exactly. So Joao would tell everyone except for Jodahs directly about himself, that he came from Sao Paulo. He was studying to become a doctor, and when the war started, everyone thought that the Northern Hemisphere people lost their mind, and that the war would pass the South, but that when the sickness and hunger and blindness came, everyone realized that the war would affect everyone. The humans named their village after Sao Paulo in the memory of their home. Joao once traveled back to the place where the city was supposed to be, but nothing except for occasional overgrown building was there. And that was simply because the shuttles would eat everything, and then the jungle would overgrow the rest. So
I imagine that would have been a mix of things, right? Probably got maybe a few stray nukes in the conflagration that was the war. But it's interesting that the sickness, hunger, and blindness. I can see the sickness and the hunger. I'm not quite sure where the blindness comes from.
I mean, to be fair, it's probably like, as you said, if some nukes were thrown in some areas around, you probably would like people not realizing, looking at the flash.
Yeah, you would get flash blindness for some people who were in the area. Yeah.
But I don't know. Could be that the radiation was so high that affected the vision. I don't know. I mean, at that point, if you see something and it causes blindness, you probably would die immediately from cancer. So
I'd say if the radiation's bad enough to like give you cataracts, then like that's
bad enough to like basically you're probably basically about to die anyway.
Yeah, but I can see that. It's the sort of. It seemed to be implied that it was like coming later, but I can see, just maybe people with some flash blindness showed up later, which makes more sense.
Yeah. On the last night, Joao kept repeating tomorrow as if trying to convince himself that he will leave. Just said to him that if he were younger, it would be different. Its underarms didn't itch, they hurt. The man didn't change his view about Uloi when asked, but his feeling towards Jodahs did. Jodahs told him that before he leaves, he needs to permit Nikanj to check his body to ensure that Jodahs didn't make any mistakes. Even though Joao refused, eventually Jodahs persuaded him.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of like inversion of the sort of prejudice here, right? Because you've got the humans are almost always the ones that are in some way prejudiced or hostile towards the Oankali. But at the same time, it's the Oankali who are the ones who kind of have all the power, right? And they often seem to be like mistreating the humans in one form or another, but it's not really through any kind of hostile intent. It's just they don't quite get human psychology, but at the same time, they're still trying to assimilate them into Oankali culture and biology. So it's still
they're saying that they like the culture and they want to learn about the culture, and yet the whole culture was basically destroyed and you can't go back to it, right? So
yeah, they don't seem to understand the degree to which human culture is separable from human biology, and then you've got, which we've touched on that kind of paradigm before, but we have this kind of moment where Zhao is beginning to overcome his prejudice against the Oankali and particularly the Uloi by sort of getting to know them individually, but it still feels like a manipulation in some way because of this whole dynamic, right? So it's
absolutely.
It's odd because it's like a classic. You get to know someone in the group against whom you're prejudiced and you overcome your prejudice, but it still feels like weirdly scummy from the Oankali.
Yeah.
Which I always love that about these books, in that everything is like morally weird.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. But yeah, the next morning he went to be checked and he found no problems. It also wished that the man stayed with Jodahs so that it didn't become a frog anymore. As the final conversation took place, Jodahs was trying to convince Joao that he could have family with an Oankali and older ones, or go to Mars where he can meet someone that looks like Jodahs to have human children. Joao really liked Jodahs because the Uloi could become anything Joao wanted, but Jodahs said it wouldn't be possible for them to be together. Chapter finished with Joao saying that to Jodahs that they all have been between Oankali before, and no Oankali made him doubt himself as much as Jodahs did. As you said, Richard, he didn't know what he actually wanted from Jodahs. It was unusual, but he didn't want to leave. But he left nonetheless. That's where the chapter ends.
Yeah. We get some, like I said, this growth from Joao in his prejudice, but still feels weird.
Yeah, it's hard to break your old habits, and especially when you get so many conflicting thoughts and ideas thrown at you, sometimes it can be overwhelming. I can see that happening for the man as well. The saying that like, I don't want to leave, and yet leaving the next day because he knows that things probably didn't change. It's just his perception of the other person just changed, not the whole group. Yeah,
and there's not really the opportunity to sort of deepen the relationship in any sense with Jodahs because Zhao's too old to be a long-term partner for Jodahs without Jodahs ending up living a lot less.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess let's go to chapter 4 predictions. So this is where I wasn't sure where the story would go, because obviously this whole storyline with Joao is finished. But obviously since he leaves, things are not the same, and I thought maybe because the inclination that Jodahs is like his under armpits are not itching, they're hurting, maybe is starting to actually exhibit first symptoms of secondary metamorphosis, like that even though he still hasn't found any potential mates, maybe it will start, it's the first steps of becoming adult Uloi are starting. Like that's what I thought might be happening next.
Yeah, we get kind of a misdirect there, right? You think it might be happening to Jodahs, but then surprise, it's Aor.
It's Aor, yeah. It's not Jodahs that's going metamorphosis, yeah. And so let's get to chapter 4, summary, I guess. Yeah. So exactly as Richard said, 2 days after Joao had gone, Aor started her metamorphosis. But funny thing is, not as a female, but into an Uloi.
Big
And
surprise.
that was a big thing. Like, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect this to take place. Nothing in the book before has given any clues to Aero becoming Uloi. Maybe spending so much time with Jodahs caused the metamorphosis to change the direction.
I mean, that would be perhaps consistent with the some of the stuff we heard previously about the impact of the sex of the siblings on the other siblings in Oankali biology. But I think it was pretty out of the blue. I mean, there might have been a couple of very subtle hints in there, but I can't put my finger on anything.
No, I think it's so. They mentioned, like, obviously the child has to spend as much time with their same sex parent as much as possible, right? So you would think that the Aero would spend more time with Agjas, but throughout the book, we're not told much if they spend time together. We're mostly shown the perspective of Jodahs and Aero, or Jodahs, Aero, and Nikanj, and I think that might have led to this.
Aero's been spending a lot of time with a mature Uloi and an immature Uloi, right?
Yeah.
So I suppose that's going to be impacting on
the sex development.
Their development, its development, I suppose now.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps because this happened to Jodahs, everyone was focused on Jodahs, right?
Yeah.
So they weren't giving as much thought to what impact will all of that have on Eor's development,
especially if they're paired siblings. So
yeah. Which again was an unusual thing for an Uloi anyway. So they were like maybe paired male-female siblings, we thought, but then nope, both Ulois.
Yeah, exactly. So the group realized that they can't continue their journey, so they split. Jodahs and Nikanj would stay with Aero, while the rest would go try to find a place to build a more permanent house somewhere higher up to prevent any floods and let Aero metamorphosize in peace. As Jodahs and Nikanj watch over Aero, Nikanj point out that Jodahs is losing hair and its body starting to change. Jodahs didn't realize that its body was changing, which resulted in Nikanj scolding him. Jodahs was worried if Aero would be like it, and Nikanj was afraid it might, and the result means that they both need to go to the ship. They needed mates because the only time Jodahs is really focused and controls its control flawless is when it has potential mate, even if they're too old. Otherwise it does things beyond its control. Even though Jodahs said it didn't do it consciously, Nikanj knew that the body responded to the signals from Joao's body, his look, reaction, touch, scent. All of those things guided Jodahs to change. Nikanj thought that if they had constructed Uloi before, they wouldn't have that many resistors because of the malleability of the body matching their preferences. Which is true.
That's interesting, yes. It feels like another sort of weird thing that kind of parallels like human teenage psychology to some degree, right? It's like, there's an object to focus, and therefore there's like some direction. But in the absence of that, then chaos.
Basically, no, absolutely. Like if you throw, that's a very good. I would say a hint towards like the teenage adolescence. Right, and the beauty of it. But Jodahs was surprised when Nikanj mentioned they would have to go to teach the Oankali about it, meaning that the whole family would go on the ship with Jodahs and Aero and stay until they find suitable partners. But the number of humans available for forming partnership was dropping significantly. There had been not enough for good trade for a while. That left the Toacht Oankali, those who wanted to trade and live with the ship, too few humans mates. So the Oankali started breeding more humans as well as accepting the vile ones from Earth. Still not enough. That the word breeding is a bit
Yeah. So what exactly does that entail?
Exactly.
I suppose they have that whole making like print copies of people thing from genetic material they have on file, as it were.
I mean, to be fair, yes, but at the same time, can you imagine, like, you make a print copy and then another person takes another print copy and then, like, suddenly those print copies meet at some point?
Yeah.
How mind-blowing would that be?
Especially for, like, different ages, right?
Yeah.
Because we have the the identical twin thing, but we don't yet have the like identical twin but offset in
different
age. Right? Yeah.
No, but honestly, I guess they would have to use those humans that are under the permanent coma, all the what's the word? Not coma, but
suspended animation. I don't know.
Like no, I'm just they're like stasis. Oh, that's the word I was looking for.
Yes, they stasis.
They use the word stasis, so the
call
permanent stasis. So I guess they could basically grow a child, use their cells and basically make a copy of those humans, because knowing well that those humans will never be awakened. But in the same time, the the humans that went to Mars are gonna have more humans. Like it just feels to me that maybe the Oankali might be like, is anybody willing to join us? No.
Yeah, that's
secondary trade, maybe.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I would be totally unsurprised if the human colony on Mars definitely had an open invitation to rejoin the Oankali, right? So.
Yes, I had the feeling that there would be an open invitation back in.
So you'll probably get a few rebels from the human colony on Mars who decide they.
But I don't think there'll be that many.
Along. No.
But yes, Jodahs couldn't accept this whole idea of them going to the ship. Nikanj asked it to lie down with it for further discussion. There is life out there for Jodahs, but the only way to properly start was on the ship, Nikanj believed. It knew that the humans that were left in the resistant village were more likely to kill Jodahs than form any meaningful partnership with it. Jodahs broke away from Nikanj and left. Not far, because Nikanj needed help protecting Aor. But when the rest of the family came to collect Aor into the new place to rest, Jodahs started to wander like Lilith did, further and further with each time. It would bring new cells for Nikanj every so often, because it brought pleasure. It brought pleasure to the Uloi. Each time.
Sort of regressing to an enjoyed childhood activity as a means of coping with stress.
Yes, but the journey would become more and more prolonged with each time. Its body also started to change a lot, and this is where we were mentioning earlier in the very start of the episode, becoming more green, scaly, and strange. It would feed on raw food. It wouldn't cook anything. Humans would run away after seeing it, or sometimes shoot at it, but still, it's like basically a giant lizard running around, Chupacabra.
A sort of I don't know, maybe more like a scaled down Godzilla type deal.
Basically, yeah.
That would be disturbing to come across in the rainforest.
Exactly, especially after the war. All those like the radioactivity was actually true. Like the mutations causing the weird monsters to appear, type of thing. But yeah, when Jodahs would be back, it would join the pairs who were guarding Aor at the time, with Oni and Hoz, or Iodale and Edic. They were still children, neutral scented, so Jodahs enjoyed their touch. Also, because they were pairs, Jodahs' body would return to normal. If it was a single sibling, it was more likely the Jodahs would unconsciously change their bodies to mimic its own. That confused Jodahs' siblings. They shouldn't be able to do it, affected, because they were still adolescent. It was more likely the Jodahs was allowing the change to take place. It wanted that influence, even though they were too young. And here's an excerpt from the book. I can change myself, I told them. But it's an effort, and it doesn't last. It's easier to do as water does, allow myself to be contained and take the shape of my containers. I don't understand, Iodale said. You help me do what I want to do. What do humans do? Shape me according to their memories and fantasies. But they both spoke at once. Then, by mutual consent, Iodale spoke. Then you're either out of control or contained by us, or forced into a false human shape. Not forced. When can you be yourself? I thought about that. I understand it because I remembered being their age and having a strong awareness of the way my face and body looked, and that look being me. It never had been really. The change didn't bother Jodahs anymore, and Jodahs wished it didn't bother people. It never deformed plants and animals in the way people said it might, but Edic pointed out, rightly so, that it did change people in law. The kids were bothered by its presence because they felt the distress in Jodahs. Jodahs didn't want to go to the ship. Its place was here on Earth, not on the ship. It wanted wildness, newness. it didn't like the idea of the sterility that ship provided.
Yeah, so it's got kind of a very physical manifestation of a bit of an identity crisis. Right?
Yes, like very big identity crisis, facing the man. But yeah, it's quite interesting that the fact that one, it confuses the kids because obviously they are not they haven't had their sex determined, and basically the only way that Jodahs goes back to its normal shape or the original shape pre-Uloi metamorphosis is because probably from the memory of those kids. But as the book says, like if it was just one kid, probably would have more scaly things running around.
Yeah, it needs some kind of a external conception of what it should look like that it can conform to.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a clear image of what it wants to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, the chapter ends with Jodahs observing the siblings, how united they were, synchronized. I just said that they would certainly become mates if they developed as male and female, and they didn't want Jodahs in between them. But at the same time, they did want Jodahs because they were helping it and it made them feel good. And Jodahs liked the fact that it could give them some level of pleasure. Not as much as the adult Oankali, but they started to learn how to do it. But the thought of going to Chupacabra and being kept there like in a cage drove it to travel again. And that's where the chapter ends.
Yeah, so they've got a bit of a decision to make. Jodahs doesn't want to go up to the ship, but there are no real available mates of a suitable age that are human down here.
Yeah, I mean, everybody just wants to shoot you on sight. And basically, and anything that's any humans alive are on the ship or on Mars. So,
yep, or any of the young ones anyway, right? Because everyone on Earth has been sterile for the last almost 100 years.
Exactly. So the question is now, I mean, we had this conversation, but it's going to be the point where the 5-part families are going to stop, and eventually the construct families will have to go back in a way to the construct Uloi and construct male and female.
Yeah, move back to the 3-parent arrangement.
Yeah, exactly, which is quite it must be disturbing, right? Because you start with the Oankali 3 parents, and then you have the 5-part family, and then back to 3, right? Because there's literally not enough humans to create the trade.
I mean, I suppose once you've had a couple of generations of the 5-person families, then you have enough mixing that the human genetics is present in many of the subsequent generations, and because there's no predetermined mix per se, the Uloi can still engineer that in. But
True.
It seems like culturally and socially almost they're not satisfied with just having some of the genetics present, right? They want some diversity, and they want to actually go through this phase of assimilating a new trade species.
Exactly.
So need more humans.
Yeah, exactly. So should we go to the chapter 5 prediction?
Sure.
So as Aer's metamorphosis continues, Jodahs is traveling more and more out. And I feel like it's going to happen. What's going to happen is some humans notice Jodahs, in his grotesque form. But maybe the case also that Jodahs will find some humans that he's so desperate to form a family unit that maybe it might start going crazy after some humans. I don't know. Metamorphosizing is as you're changing its form as it chases after those humans. I have no idea, but it just feels to me that something is going to happen, something bad because of Jodahs. That need to form that family unit.
Okay. Any speculations about how Aor's going to cope once?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, depends. If Jodahs is going to be there when Aor wakes up, and they can share. Maybe it can share its experience with Aor and help it adjust to what he was experiencing as a first Oloi construct. But if it's not there, it will be quite difficult too for Aira as well. I mean, definitely Aira is going to experience the same thing as Jodahs did, like not being able to control it properly and type of thing.
Okay, yeah. So maybe able to benefit a little bit from Jodahs' experience.
Yeah,
but yeah,
if Jodahs is there, if it's not like pretending to be a lizard or in a river.
Off in the jungle somewhere.
Yeah.
Scaring some poor hapless human trying to grow some stuff.
Exactly. Basically. But yeah, I think that's it for today, right?
I think so. Yeah, a little bit of a shorter episode, but
yeah, interesting nonetheless. A bit of a interesting twist thrown in at us. It was good.
Yeah. As I said before, I think I didn't really see that one coming.
No, honestly,
when I first
can't tell.
This.
Impossible to tell. But yeah, thank you very much everyone for listening. We're Xenothesis. You can find all the places we upload our podcast on xenothesis.com. I was Michael Glinka.
And I was Richard Acton.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.